Welcome to the Too Inquisitive podcast.
You're too inquisitive.
Yes, I know the episode is late. I am so sorry. I had some technical difficulties that were beyond my control. I will try in the future to never let this happen again. And I'll make sure I'll get these episodes to you guys on Monday. But today's guest is a very interesting guest, especially to me, because today's topic is graphic design and photography and all the nerdy stuff that I'm into. If you guys don't know already, I myself am a graphic designer, and so is today's guest. So I personally was invested in this conversation because I was just so into it because I'm a graphic designer and we could relate so much to certain things. But that's enough talking. Without further ado, Mr. Kamaal Lettsome. What's up, Kamaal?
I'm good. What's up with you?
I'm good. You are the first guest that I have on that is more in my field of work because we're both graphic designers and photographers.
Indeed.
Yeah, most of the guests I've had so far have been in the music industry. And then I had one guest who was also an entrepreneur. No, two entrepreneurs. And then the other one was a former Miss BVI. So it's good to have somebody to talk about, this tech stuff and to kind of geek out with a little bit.
Indeed.
All right. So I know you do graphic design and photography. You do anything else inside that field also, or?
No, I say currently right now is just graphic design and photography. Bread and
So
butter.
how would you label yourself?
Basically, as a graphic designer / photographer.
So you got no fancy name or anything for it?
No, not really. I just my full thing is graphic designer / photographer / poet, but the last part ain't necessary for this one. So graphic designer photographer, that's the main thing. That's what the business is built on for me. So
fair enough. And you do that full time, or?
Yeah, started part time, and then after the storm in 2017, lost my full time job and just went self-employed from there. It always was my plan that if I ever left that job, that I'll just push and try to do my own thing. And so that was the push that basically said, okay, now do your own thing. And that's been going on for about 3 years now.
That's pretty cool. That's actually around the time when I started my business. So you've been full time doing it around the same time when I just basically started doing it professionally, and I'm still not full time yet, even though I'd love to be.
Trust me, once you reach that point, there's no turning back at all. You just once you've had a taste of this freedom, you just it's addictive. I can't go and work for anyone else, sit in an office, anything like that at all.
I feel like I already have that kind of mindset already, so it just pains me even more to still have a 9 to 5. Even my job is a 9 to 5, but you know what I mean.
Indeed.
So how long have you been doing graphic design in total?
I think I really started dabbling in graphic design in 2004, I would say. Simply because that's when I got my real first-hand experience. I did desktop publishing at HLSCC, and I always found it interesting. And funny enough, my goal was actually to become a computer engineer or a technician. And my cousin, Butch Lettsome, one time he went to Atlanta and he came back and he was we talking and he just so yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I want to be a graphic designer. And I was just graphic designer? I was I love computers. I love art. Why didn't I think of that? And then from there, my career path changed just from that simple conversation. And then I graduated HLSC in 2004, and I did a small stint at GIS in the last 4 months of 2004, because one of the ladies was one of the persons that worked there. A lady was on maternity leave, so they needed someone to fill in the graphic position. And having messed with Adobe Illustrator and all that different stuff, and even Corel Draw at that point, I was afforded the opportunity to go in and just gain a little more hands-on experience, basically.
All right, that's cool. And when did you get into photography?
Photography came when I was at college, which is the same college that Borch had visited in Atlanta. That's where I ended up attending, the Art Institute of Atlanta. And one of the classes that we had to do was called the Digital Photography for Non-Majors. And it's basically just to give you an understanding of what a photographer does, the things to look for, colors, how to deal with different pictures and all of that. It wasn't like a fully in-depth course, but it exposed us to so much in a short span of time, because it was the school is a quarter school, so we have literally 4 quarters a year. So it's 10-week programs. So it's very quick, and that class 10 weeks, and every week something was due. So you had some assignments to turn in on a weekly basis for 10 weeks. So, that whole experience got me, intrigued in it. And I think shortly after that, I had some money. I was able to buy my first DSLR camera. It was a Canon Rebel was my first camera, and I started messing around with it, and that was the beginning. That was maybe 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. Yeah.
2008, I was in primary school. I think I was in like class 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I graduated to go high school in like 2010. So yeah.
Oh, and I had my bachelor's degree in 2009. So
That's crazy. So being in the industry for so long, and like you said, you started dabbling in graphic design in 2004. How have you obviously there's been major changes in the programs like Photoshop and Illustrator from then to now. How has it been like literally witnessing all of those changes from then to now?
It's been interesting. Definitely. What you can do in programs now are like a breath of fresh air when you look back on some of the simple things that the things that they've simplified now that was painstaking, even just maybe like 5 years ago. Look at Photoshop. Photoshop has this a new option where it helps you cut people out of backgrounds that they added maybe a couple years ago, and even to the most recent update, it's perfected it even more. It's not perfect, but where you would have to spend time, a great deal of time, either cutting it out or going through. Some people use a pen tool and they draw it out, and it takes a lot of time. And I'd say it has helped streamline a lot of productivity, definitely. And it's just basically, I can't wait to see where we go from here. It's come, as I said, a very long way. The things we can do, even the ability to jump from one app to the next, almost seamlessly, depending on what you're doing. It's just for the productive person, for the graphic designer, the artist, illustrator, what have you. It's just it has come a very long way. Let's put it that way. I don't even know how better to describe it. It's just As you say, you were in primary school when I was dabbling. Yeah, what I did back then, if you were exposed to that and then you leap forward, you'd have been like, so I had to do this back then, and now you tell me I can just kind of like press a button and that basically does most of the work. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think my first time using Photoshop was, I want to say 2012. And how I actually found out about Photoshop, I went to Tampa with my father on a little vacation, and we were staying by one of his friends. And the friend, he had a son that was my age. And what he would do is he had Photoshop on his laptop. I think it was a crack version. And he would like make little designs and like little art and stuff, and then like sell it to YouTubers and people like that. And he used to make like, for like I think I was like 13 at the time. For a 13-year-old, he was making like some good money, just playing around in Photoshop, making little simple designs, and you know, selling them on like Fiverr and to different YouTubers and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I remember sitting down watching him play around with the app, seeing all the cool stuff you could do with it. And then he taught me how to find the crack version. I think it was on the Pirate Bay. I don't know if you remember that website.
Of course.
Yeah, so he taught me about like uTorrent and all that stuff, and then we put it on my laptop. And at that time, I had a MacBook Pro. I think it was a 2011 version, because I had bought it for myself for, I think, my 12th birthday or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was always, as a young child, I was always into tech, and I always wanted the latest and greatest tech. So like I would go do like little odd jobs and stuff and save up all my money, save up all my birthday money, and I would buy the latest and greatest tech and stuff. I remember I bought it in Puerto Rico for my birthday. I think it was either my 12th birthday or 13th birthday. But anyway, so I put it on my laptop, and then I started playing around with it, thinking I can probably do the same thing he was doing and try to make money and stuff too. Not knowing, living in a BVI or PayPal and stuff a little bit different. And but I still ended up playing around with the app. And I think like I used to use it on and off, and I would just dabble with it and just make random designs. And out of the blue, people would start asking me for like little cartoons and stuff. And at the time, I thought they were like the coolest cartoons in the world I was making. But if I look back at them now, then obviously there's room for much improvement.
I mean, that comes with the territory. I don't know anyone who doesn't look back even maybe 2 or 3 years ago and be like, why did I do this way? Why did I think that this, was amazing, And I think that even the ability to be able to do that shows immense growth. And, we're in an industry where things are always changing, and you have to, if you're not willing to change with the times, you're going to get left behind, And something you said made me think of the same question you asked earlier. And how have things changed? When I started, Mac wasn't, Apple wasn't the bread and butter that it is now. I didn't even, it wasn't even in my, my thought hemisphere at all until, my same cousin Birch, he had a Mac, and he was like, if you're going to do graphic design, you got to get a Mac. Macs is a thing, thing. And this is in 2005. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, but they don't really make that much programs for Mac. And like legitimately back then, it was very hard to find programs for Mac. Mind you, the design programs.
It still is hard to find them. It's better now.
Yes. No. It's not better now.
It's
much better now,
Yeah, definitely, because I remember having mine in 2012, and back then even it was I hardly found much. I even still had a Windows computer just for the apps I couldn't get on the Mac.
Exactly. So that's 2012. Imagine 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Even some of the apps that we had felt like watered down versions of the Windows versions. Even MSN Messenger, the things you could have done on an MSN Messenger on PC, you couldn't do it on Mac. You had a basic interface, little emoji here and there. When everyone had their colored fonts and all that stuff, you had none of that. You just had to be like, oh, okay, I can't see it, but just imagine that I can see this pretty thing that you're talking about, and I'm gonna say, okay, cool, that looks nice, So the growth of the expansion of the software and all of that has been wonderful. As I say, you can now get up and use a Mac much more seamlessly than you could have back then. And funny enough, a lot of people are like, I'm used to PC. What's a Mac? I don't want to have to learn something brand new all over again. And for someone who made the transition myself, because my first computer was an IBM, and that wasn't groundbreaking, but it was, my first laptop. I loved it, but then when I bought I bought my first Mac, and at that point it was a PowerBook. It wasn't a MacBook; it was a PowerBook because they used chips designed by Apple, and I spent $3,000. I sold my car when I went away to school, and that I took all of that money and I invested in a Mac. I'm like, this is an investment into my future. And to this day, I don't regret it. I sat down in one afternoon and I was just like, oh, this is pretty easy to use. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. It was pretty seamless. And after that, I told you, I was like, unless you sit down and do it, you won't understand. It's not as difficult as you're making it seem. You're just thinking about this whole new hemisphere of a new computer and a new operating system, and I'm used to this, and I'm like, it's really not that hard, but it was the most stable thing. It got me through basically all of my schooling. In fact, I still have my first laptop on my shelf in my room, and that's 2005. We're in 2020, and as far as I know, I can still plug it in and turn it on, and it loads up just fine. There's a few dead pixels here and there, but other than that, it's been. I never went back because it was the most stable thing for me. So
yeah, I don't know where my first laptop is. It was a tiny little Acer, those little mini ones.
A netbook.
Yeah, it was a netbook. That was my first laptop. I have no idea where it is, but I still have my second laptop, which
That was the
is
Mac?
it was no. The second one was a Lenovo, which was my graduation present from primary school to go into high school. And nothing was wrong with the Ace at the time. I remember I just wanted a bigger screen.
Okay.
So my aunt bought it for me, and she actually went out and found like the biggest laptop she could find, because that's all the emphasis I put on it. I was like, I don't care what laptop is, I just need a big screen. So she found I think it was 17 inches or something like that at the time. So at the time, that was huge.
Oh yeah, my first my PowerBook was 17 inches as well. So
yeah, so I still have that, and I can plug it in, and I think the battery is probably not as good as it used to. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't hold any charge, but it'll turn on. I know the keyboard, a lot of the keys don't work, but a USB keyboard could fix that problem easy.
Indeed.
Yeah, the MacBook, which was my third laptop, I don't have it anymore because I sold it because the screen went bad. And someone wanted it for parts. So I ended up selling it to them for parts. And then I bought the MacBook, which I have now, which is a 2017. So I had that 2011 MacBook I think I bought it in 2012, and then I sold it in 2018 when I bought this one.
Okay. And yeah,
so I definitely got my money's worth out of it for sure.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, yep, definitely, because I'm on my third MacBook, and I'm ready for my fourth right now, simply because what I do now, and that's another thing that has changed in the software world. The demands of the software are much, much more than they were, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So, 8 gigs of RAM 10 years ago 15 years ago was amazing. Now I'm running 16 gigs of RAM because I bought my the current one I use in 2015, and I always get the everything top of the line from them because I want it to last. and I have 16 gigs of RAM and running Lightroom and Photoshop. If I don't have an external hard drive plugged in to use as a scratch disk, my computer is going to be like, nah, we have no memory. You need to close something now, you know? So it's
That is
crazy.
very true, because even if I'm like editing in 4K on Premiere Pro, because this laptop has 16 gigs of RAM in it too. If I'm editing in 4K on Premiere Pro and I have Photoshop open at the same time, then that RAM definitely dips pretty low.
Oh yeah, Photoshop is greedy.
Yep. And I remember my 2011 MacBook. I'm pretty sure that only had like 6 gigs of RAM or something to that. It could have been like 4, I think, actually.
Yeah. 4 is
4 or
usually the
6 or
standard
some.
of.
Yeah. And then I ended up upgrading it. I put in I think it was 8 gigs I put in it. So it went up to 16, and that gave it like a good refresh for a couple of years.
Okay.
But then, yeah. But I definitely would like to get myself. I would like to get something bigger that has more RAM. Like I would love something with like 32 gigs of RAM at least, and a solid processor.
Yeah. So what I want now, so another thing that's changed is up to 5 years ago, if I wanted everything, the highest preference and everything when I buy a Mac, it would run me maybe a little over 3K. Now, a fully decked out MacBook Pro is about 6K. And people look at me like, are you crazy? But I'm like, here's the kicker. 6K gives me, I think last time I checked it, actually, you can get up to 8 terabytes of solid state space. You can get up to 32 gigs of memory. You get the most top-notch processor that's available now. That is 8 core. You have a graphics card, all that stuff. And I tell people, like, if you're in a graphic design business, it's not a luxury expense; it's an investment. If you just want to watch TV and stream Netflix and all and surf the web and all that, you don't need to spend that much money. But for guys like us, you're editing video, I'm doing pictures and graphic design and all these things. We need that type of power.
Definitely. I try to explain that to my friends too, because like I'm the tech guy out in my friend group. So whenever they want to buy a new phone or a new laptop, whatever, they're like, should I buy this one? I should have buy that one. I ask them, well, what are you gonna do with it? They're like, well, I just want to watch some Netflix, maybe do a little Microsoft Word or whatever the fuck. I'm like, you don't need to spend $2,000 for that.
Definitely not.
They were like, oh, but I want the top of the line. I'm like, you don't need it though. If you want to spend it, go ahead, but you don't need it. They say, okay, well, which one would you buy? I said, well, I would buy the top of the line, but I need it for what I'm going to do.
But the simplest thing to justify it is, we're going to use this to make money. You're not.
That too.
So if you want to spend the money and you have it to spend, by all means, go ahead and do it. But it's not a necessity for you to do it, because you're just going to use it for leisurely, to do leisurely things on it, so.
Yep. And people even watch me when I'm crazy when I tell them, well, yeah, I'm going to buy the new iPhone and I want the new Mac and I also want the iPad. And they're like, so you're going to spend, let's say, $5,000 on all this stuff for what? I'm like, well, if I spend $5,000 on all this stuff, I use my phone for photo shoots. That'll pay off for itself. I'll give that 2 or 3 photo shoots and that's paid off for. The laptop is to edit everything, and then the iPad is to edit everything on the go when I don't have my laptop. And the iPad also kind of doubles as a graphics tablet too, because Procreate is making headwaves. Is becoming a really great app.
It is. I'm still learning it, but it is. And software updates. Again, the most recent Adobe update happened, I think, a couple weeks ago, and you now have a full-fledged. They made it better. You had a full-fledged Photoshop on iPad Pro from last year. Now they've made it better, and now they have a full-fledged Illustrator on your iPad, so you can now literally work on the go without having to worry about taking a cumbersome laptop. Laptops aren't that big anymore, but if you could just pull your iPad, your the Apple Pencil and go and just work anywhere you want. Like, how can you beat that?
And then Apple has the great thing about it too. If you have all Apple devices, you have AirDrop,
Indeed.
which I find super
Oh yeah.
useful. Like my iPhone broke what was last month, and I had to use an Android for a little while. And I think I had the Android for about maybe 2 weeks. And then that 2 weeks, I was losing my mind for the simple fact that I just could not transfer files to my laptop and back to the phone seamlessly. Just that one inconvenience just upset my whole workflow until I was able to get my iPhone. Well, I got put a little temporary fix on it. I waiting for the 12 Pro Max, which I think when I'm pre-order today. But yeah, definitely gonna get that.
That's what's up.
Okay, so obviously you live in the BVI, and like you said before, you're a full-time graphic designer. As a graphic designer myself, I know how hard it is to kind of find clients in the BVI, because a lot of the clients, I think, in the BVI, let me not say clients, a lot of people in the BVI haven't gotten to the realization that branding and high quality graphics and marketing are important. They kind of undervalue it. So how, for 3 years now, how have you managed to find clients that are willing to pay your price? Because that's a whole nother story there, is that a lot of them don't even want to pay your price because, again, they undervalue it. How have you managed to stay afloat and thrive being a full-time graphic designer in the BVI?
Well, first of all, it has really been an up and down struggle. You have your good months, you have your bad months, and the fact that I do photography, it helps me balance, my income and all that stuff too. Because, for me, for graphic design, you're the creativity, like you're on the screen. You have to be creative. You have to be creative. Photography allows me to be creative on the shoot. And then when it comes to like processing, it's more like, okay, this is a process. I know exactly what I'm doing. So it gets a bit simpler at that point. But for graphic design now, it's coming up with new ideas. Graphic design is basically the art of solving problems visually. I read that somewhere basically, and that's the gist of it. And I've been lucky enough to find either I have friends who own businesses who asked me for my work basically. Come, how much you do this? Okay, cool. I need you to do this for me. And I find when you find people that are actually business owners themselves or involved in a business to a certain degree, then they understand the value of what you do. I've had people come to me, say how much you do for this, how much you charge for this, and a flyer or what's not, and I'll be like, $75. Oh wow, so much! No, oh my gosh! Like, I thought you were saying 30 or something, and I'm like, 30. If I spend 2, 3, maybe 4 hours designing this thing for you, and then you have a problem with it, and we have to go back and forth to adjust all of this, and I charge you $30, and I just spent half my day working on this. Like, how am I supposed to pay my bills at the end of the day? Not to mention, when you design, when you do good design, it adds value to your product, as in the client. This is why I get very passionate when I see people do things basically like incorrectly, or they settle for things that are
mediocre.
Because one of the things, I find that also kind of helps me as well. Sometimes when people ask, why is the price this and what's the price that, I'm able to break down basically what I'm doing and what you're getting. And a lot of times when people understand that, they're more willing to say, oh, okay, I understand, no problem. You still have, because at the end of the day, your price is your price. And if someone can't afford it, that's fine. If they can't afford it, that's fine. But it's like, it should be no hate, no grudges, anything. I've turned down jobs simply because they're like, oh, that's out of my budget. I'm like, I understand that, and that's no problem. I good luck. I hope you find someone that you can afford. but that's how the game goes. But I even I remember doing an entrepreneurship class a few years ago, and one of the things they spoke about, especially as a business owner, and you find sometimes small businesses are like the bread and butter of like most economies. If you are too cheap to invest in yourself, then why should you want your customers to invest in you? And and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because you're cutting corners for your own business. So how do I know that the product you're providing me, you're not giving me your least amount of effort, or you're putting your least amount of effort into it? You're just trying to turn a buck rather than deliver a quality product. So I try to tell people, like, like even if you don't patronize my services, if you go to anyone, you should still have the same respect and understand that this is what this person is providing, and you can't lowball them because you can't afford it. You just would have to find someone that is more within your price range. But you have people, they try to lowball you, or they try to say, well, you can't do it for this, well, you can't do it for that. And it's like, no, I have a standard to uphold. I have my own rules, guys, regulations. I have bills the same way you have bills. I have bills, and I'm responsible for them, and I have to make sure that what I give out, it's worthy of, my skills, and that's just the name of the game. Simple things. We look at logos. I see logos go out almost on a daily basis or weekly basis in this day and age. Everyone is doing their own little business, and I see so many wrong things done in these logos. And what a lot of people don't understand is the importance of a logo. The logo is basically the face of your business. You won't be a makeup artist and have pictures of a clowns on your card, or even have your face painted on a clown. I mean, your face painted like a clown, advertising your makeup business. And it's the same way. You want a solid logo that is going to represent your business to the best of their abilities. Now, people don't understand when, I was taught in school, when you do a logo, you can't have too many colors. You have a lot of different restrictions. It has to work in black and white. If your logo does not work in black and white, you do not have a good logo. Yeah, it has to be vector. A lot of people may not, know what that means. I know you know what that means. And the funny thing is, like, I was working on something for somebody recently, and they said they were going to send me the vector. I got a PNG, but then the PNG was, I can tell that whoever they got it from took a JPEG. They live traced it. So, live tracing will give you a vector, but then a vector from a bad image is still a bad image and vector,
Yeah,
and
garbage in, garbage out. That's my mother says.
Yes, and that's computer technology terminology from when I was in high school, and that's what it
my
is.
mom is a computer teacher, actually.
You see, so there you go. So
yeah, so she's been preaching that all my life. I can hear her, like, it's instilled in my head. I can hear her voice saying it.
So you have that, and then when you deliver to the client, you deliver JPEGs, you deliver PNGs, you deliver EPS files. Like, a lot of people, like, I've delivered stuff, and people like, I can't open these things, or some of them don't open, and I have to be like, you don't have to worry about that. Just know, if you go to get anything professionally printed, if they say, I need an EPS file of your logo, you have it. You know what I'm saying? That this is what you need, because if you're doing certain high-res things, the PNG and a JPEG wouldn't cut it. You need that. If I'm going to put something on a 10-foot billboard, I can't use a JPEG.
No, you need the EPS.
You need an EPS. You need a vector. A lot of people don't understand that. But me, being a graphic designer, and another part of being a graphic designer is you are a teacher to your clients. You have to make sure you have the right knowledge to pass on to them, so that they know this is what you need, this is why you need it, and be aware of these things, because I know you probably dealt with clients that come in and they either don't know what they want, they just know they need something, and you have to guide them into
Yes.
what they want. And then you have those that come in with all these lofty ideas and dreams, and you have to be like, okay, I understand you're in Cloud 9, but Cloud 9 does not work at all. Like, it's just not tangible for what you need, and you need to come down. Let's come down to Cloud 6. We can do Cloud 6. Cloud 6 is possible. Cloud 9 is where you dipping into fantasy. I want something to print out on paper and be able to move. No, we're not in Harry Potter. That's not gonna happen. Yeah. Or I don't know if this as a graphic designer, it's probably happened to you. Send a picture that's maybe like 100 kilobytes. Can you use this? And you're like, no. But you're a designer. Can't you make it bigger? I can make it bigger, but it will look worse.
Distorted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have to explain these things. I have clients that send me things or use this picture, and I'm like, don't send me a picture in WhatsApp. WhatsApp compresses picture, it loses quality. Email me. And then and half the time, honestly, I get an emailed version of a WhatsApp picture.
Of the WhatsApp picture, yep.
And it's just like, so it's so even having all the knowledge, sometimes you still run into, user error in a sense with clients, but you still have to be able to tell them these things and why you need them. And that knowledge base is what allows you to be able to justify your prices, as well as just sustain yourself, because everything you put out there, even if it does not have your name on it, it has your mark. So, and what happens when you do a good job and someone says, hey, who did this for you? They can say, oh, Bungie did it for me. Kamaal did this for me. Oh, okay, I need something like that. What's their number? Let me holler at them. Because I've gotten a lot, I don't advertise like a lot of people, but I've gotten a lot of work simply from word of mouth. And
yeah, same actually.
You see, and that comes from the quality of stuff you put out there, and just wanting not just to worry about money, but saying I need to give the client my best. And that I think that integrity in your work allows you to create, almost like a following, a client base, and that helps sustain you at least, or helps you even not even sustain, helps you grow in so many different ways, So I'd say just that has been what's really kept me going.
Any tips to people now getting into graphic design and wanting to make this their full-time occupation?
One, humble yourself. You cannot be a graphic designer and have thin skin. It's just not going to work. I had teachers that would tear my stuff up, tear the class's stuff up. Why did you do this? Oh, I thought it looked good. Oh, okay, no problem. Start it over. It doesn't work. You have to be able to justify basically give a rhyme and reason for everything you do, because it can't just be, a happy coincidence. Not a happy coincidence. It can't just be because, I felt like this looked good. Because at the end of the day, what you are as a graphic designer is you're an artist for a client. So it doesn't matter what you like. It matters what the client likes. And as a graphic designer as well, I know you've done things, especially when you provide multiple variations of things for choosing purposes. There have been ones you personally lean to more than the other, and the client will be like, oh, I like this one that you personally don't necessarily like, but just for the sake of variety, it's there. And you have to be like, okay, as long as you're happy and it meets the minimum standards that I need to set, then cool. I may still try to polish it just a little bit more to get it more to something that I can stomach a bit better, but I'm proud to put my name on it, I think that's important. So you have to be willing to take criticism. That's why I say you can't be thin skinned, because I had a friend when I just finished school, she was a few years behind me. She would send me stuff and be like, oh, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And I did the same thing that I went through in school. I asked her, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And she just like, oh, you can't just ever say something look good. And I'm like, but you came to me for my honest opinion. I'm not, if you ask me about graphic design, all the years I spent, I'm not gonna just try to boost your ego. I'm trying to help you to grow into a better designer. That is my job. Your technical skills may be good, but your execution, but your ideation may be bad. If you need to be able to justify, as I said, everything you've done. Also, surrounding yourself with people who are in the field. I have people that I've learned from, the best way to sum it up is also to always remain a student. Always remain a student. You can learn from someone who has more experience than you, and you can learn from someone who has less experience than you. You just have to be willing to be and open to be like, oh, okay, I like what this person do. They have less experience than me, but that is solid. And there are hints and things that I can take from that to add to me, Also, never be afraid to ask questions. How did you do this? What do you think of this? All of that helps mold you and helps you find your own style. And two, you just learn and gain so much more. And I've done it in graphic design, and I've done it in photography. Photography for me, I learned retouching through a lot of trial and errors, through plugins and all that stuff that just, it took me to a certain point, but it never got me all of the way. And then, I saw one of my friends, I went to school with in high school, they started graphic design and moved to photography, Kevon Richardson, I love his pics. So I would always,
big fan of his
so
work.
what I would do is like, yo, Kev, how you get this new? How you do this? What you using? What's this? What's that? And asking questions, and he'd be like, oh, he watched this video, or he'll show me, he'll point me in the direction of things that I can look at. And that whole process has given birth to what I can do now. And I'm so grateful for it. And had I been like, I don't care to do this, or I don't care to do that, oh, that's too much work, I would never grow, and that humility, because I'm never cocky, and it doesn't matter how good something comes out. I'm never like, oh, look at me, I did this, pop my chest, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, cool, I pull this off. What's next? I think one quote that I liked was the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright. They always used to ask him, what's his favorite design, and his response would always be the next one. That is is forward thinking. And I think what kills a lot of people is the fact that their egos, they have one successful thing or two successful thing, and they ride that wave, and you can't ever tell them anything. You can't say, well, you need to work on this, or I think you do so much better if you work on this. And they're like, who is you? Like, I'm getting business, I'm getting that. And it's just like, yeah, but the stuff you're putting out there, it really isn't that great. And I'm not trying to knock what you do, but I'm trying to say you can be better. But if you're just, and I think what defines that is it's what are you doing it for? Are you doing it because of your love of it, or are you doing it just to make money? Because if you're doing it just to make money, you're going to plateau, and you're going to plateau very quickly. But if you're doing it simply because it's something you love and you enjoy, then you will always remain humble to it. You'll always be seeking ways to improve, and you're always going to grow, basically. So, ask questions, humble yourself, find people close to you, as in not close to you as in like familial or anything like that, but in terms of someone you can get next to or get close enough to have a conversation with that you can ask advice for. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve when it comes to design. Always be willing to take constructive criticism. And I have to say constructive because not everyone knows how to give constructive criticism. And I think as a designer, you've probably been there before, where you do something and they're like, oh, I don't like it. And they're like, okay, cool, you don't have to like it. Tell me why you don't like it. I don't know, I just don't like it. And I'm like, I can't do anything with that. You need to tell me what it is that makes you unhappy, so I can try to fix that, you know. And usually what I do sometimes when I reach that point, I'm like, okay, if you don't know, then just I will start over from scratch. And sometimes I get the no, me saying all that. I'm like, okay, if you're not saying all that, then tell me what's bothering you so that we can find common ground,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I can't do that if I'm worried, if you don't want to direct me and tell me what's working for you, what's not working for you, as well as I can't do that if I'm too worried about them not liking it, when in fact they have to like it, because it's what you're doing it for them, not yourself, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
that drive, that humility, that always seeking knowledge and how to better yourself is going to take you far. And you know, just be confident. Be confident and not be afraid to make mistakes. You will make mistakes, as we've spoken. You know, in our design group, you know, a lot of us have posted things that we did when we first started out, and you know, it's funny to me
Mm-hmm.
knowing where I started and seeing where some of you guys started, some of the same things that I got caught up in when I started designing. You know, there's the little fads. You know, you find the gradient tool and everything is gradient. You know, you have like
Yeah.
10 fonts on one flyer poster and all of that. You know, I've been there. You know, and it's like almost a
Mm-hmm.
rites of passage, and then to be able to look back and be like, wow, like I really did this, and you know, I thought it was fly. It really wasn't. But as I
Mm-hmm.
said, that's growth, and that's what you want to be able to do, because you're going to continue. You know, even if you look at illustrators and they do their timeline of, you know, I started drawing in 2007. Look at what it is at now at 2017, 2018. There is that progression, and that's what you want, to continuously, constantly work on things, better yourself, and all of that. You know? I think I went way beyond what you
Yep.
asked, but that's my breakdown basically.
No, that's good. That was very informational, and I agree with everything you said. Definitely. Any pet peeves come to mind when it comes to dealing with graphic design? Like dealing with either clients or just seeing some of the logos and stuff that have been coming out recently. Because I have a ton of pet peeves. Hmm. Yeah, doesn't match the style of the cartoon. Yeah, easily. Mm. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Facts. Mhm. One of my pet peeves is this recent trend of glitter. Everybody seems to want to put some kind of glitter in their logo, and I don't understand why. Mhm. 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 Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Facts. I learned that over the last year because I used to just put strokes on everything just to make it work, and I was like, "Why am I doing this?" I had to like look at myself. I was like, "This is stupid." I mean, it should be able to work without a logo, or else it just doesn't make sense at all. I mean, not a logo should be able to work without a stroke, or it just doesn't make sense at all. And then so I had to catch myself on that one for sure. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. That's another thing that I had to teach myself to like try to keep things as simple as possible. Hmm. The business name. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I agree. One of my biggest pet peeves, even before I became a designer, that this just always used to crawl my blood, even when I was young, was when people would have a logo but it would just be like a picture, like just a square picture, a JPEG, and it would be like a wallpaper basically. And then they put like a font, like they just type some words in it, and it would just be like a wallpaper, a square, and then they call it, that's their logo. That is probably my biggest pet peeve. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Should be Illustrator. Yep. Mhm. I don't like making those types of logos personally either. When they give you a picture and then they want the picture of that specific thing, they want to cut out and then the text around it, and I'm like, That's not really a real logo though." Mhm. Oh, that's another pet peeve too. I be telling people, you don't put your phone up. Phone numbers go on flyers and advertisements. They do not go on your logo. And business cards, yes, they do not go on your logo. Mhm. 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 I mean, if you were selling it to kids. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. On the topic of fonts, another pet peeve, I hate to see script like fonts in cursive in all caps. Yep. Yep. Yes. Yeah. I have two or three are definitely my go-tos. Yeah. Yeah. Facts. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Would look like a whole new language. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. I'm that same way. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and see if you still look at it the same way. Mhm. Makes sense. flowing. Yeah, happens all the time. Hmm. Yeah, you're very right. You're very, very, very right. All right, man. It's getting late. Almost time for dinner, and we did an hour. I think we had a very productive conversation. I hope somebody listening to this, whether they're thinking about starting a business or thinking about rebranding, or even designers, whether they're new or old, I hope they can take something away from this and apply it to whatever they want to do, and hopefully it's helpful. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. I very much appreciate you.
We definitely could have went way longer in this conversation. We could probably have talked about this for hours, but it was kind of late when we recorded this, and I was hungry. I'm sure he had things to do with his life also, besides sitting down on a computer talking to me. Um, but it was a really good conversation, and I'm glad we had it. Again, guys, I'm very sorry that this episode was late, but please, do me a favor and leave a review if you guys can. Specifically for the people using Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. Uh, Rate me 5 stars. I want you to rate me 5 stars, but no, be honest and rate what you think my podcast has been so far. This is the 7th episode. I'm super proud of it so far, and I really do enjoy making these episodes. So any feedback would be pretty awesome. Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe, of course. And we'll see you guys again next Monday.